I always thought the quiet weeks before my sister's wedding were strange, but I told myself it was just nerves. Weddings do that to people. They make families secretive, frantic, tender all at once. I didn't question the unanswered calls or the vague messages because I trusted her. Trust has a way of softening warning signs until they feel like nothing at all. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything shattered, an ordinary day that didn't look like betrayal until it spoke. I was standing in my kitchen, phone pressed between my shoulder and ear, telling my aunt how excited I was. I remember smiling as I said it, already imagining the dress, the music, the way my sister and I would stand side by side like we always had. "I can't believe it's finally next week," I said. "It feels unreal." There was a pause on the other end. Not the kind where someone loses signal, but the kind where truth is deciding whether to step forward. Then my aunt spoke, slowly, carefully. "It already happened." I laughed. A short, confused sound escaped my mouth. "What do you mean?" "The wedding is next Saturday." Another silence. Heavier this time. "No," she said. "Your sister got married weeks ago." The room felt like it tilted. I gripped the counter as if my body understood before my mind could. I asked her to repeat it. I asked if she was mistaken. I asked if she was sure she was talking about my sister. With every question, my hope thinned until it tore completely. She told me it had been small but beautiful. Immediate family. Close friends. Everyone smiling. Everyone present. Everyone except me. I thanked her for telling me and hung up before my voice could betray how badly I was shaking. For a long moment, I just stood there, staring at nothing. My chest ached in a way that felt old, familiar, like every time I'd been overlooked before but refused to name it. I replayed the last few months in my head, the missed calls, the half-answers, the way my sister deflected every time I asked about wedding plans. She hadn't forgotten me. She had excluded me. That truth hurt more than any argument ever could. I sat down at the kitchen table and let myself feel it all, the humiliation of knowing relatives had looked at me and said nothing, the grief of missing a moment I could never get back, the betrayal that came from realizing my absence had been intentional. I didn't cry right away. At first, I felt hollow, like someone had scooped something essential out of me. Then the tears came, not loud, not dramatic, but steady and exhausted. These weren't just tears for a wedding. They were for every time I had shown up fully and been met with half-love in return. That night, I didn't call my sister. I didn't text. I didn't demand an explanation. Something inside me went quiet, watchful. I understood then that this wasn't a misunderstanding to be fixed, it was a message. And for the first time, I stopped trying to rewrite it into something kinder than it was. For 3 days after I learned the truth, I said nothing. I moved through my life like a ghost, answering emails, washing dishes, making coffee I barely tasted. Silence wrapped around me, not as comfort but as armor. If I didn't speak, I couldn't break. On the 4th day, my sister finally called. Her name lit up my phone like it always had, and for a moment, instinct took over. My thumb hovered, ready to answer, ready to pretend this was normal. Then I remembered the wedding dress I never saw, the vows I never heard, the room full of people who watched her walk down the aisle without me. I answered anyway. She sounded cheerful, too cheerful. As if nothing had changed. As if the biggest event of her life hadn't happened without her only sister standing there. "Hey," she said lightly. "I've been meaning to call." I waited. She didn't continue. "So," I said finally, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. "You got married." There it was. A pause. Not long, but telling. "Well, yes," she said. "It all happened so fast." Fast. That word again. The same excuse people use when they don't want to say "I chose not to tell you." I asked her why I wasn't invited. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just asked, Because I wanted to hear how she would justify erasing me. She said she wanted to keep it small. She said she didn't want stress. She said she assumed I'd understand. Understand what? That I wasn't important enough to stand beside her? That my feelings were optional? I told her I would have traveled anywhere, rearranged anything, done whatever it took to be there. She sighed, like I was making this harder than it needed to be. That sigh hurt more than her words. Then came the truth she didn't mean to reveal. You're always so independent, she said. I figured you wouldn't mind. There it was. My strength, once again, used as permission to hurt me. We ended the call politely. No shouting. No resolution. Just a quiet agreement to pretend nothing had cracked open between us. But something had, and it wasn't reparable with apologies that never came. In the days that followed, the family silence grew louder. No one called to explain. No one said they were sorry. I realized they had all agreed, silently or not, that my exclusion was acceptable. That was the moment I stopped chasing explanations. I stopped checking my phone. I stopped offering emotional labor to people who had already decided I was expendable. Instead, I turned inward. I spent evenings at my lake house, sitting by the water as the sun sank slowly into the horizon. That place had always been my escape, bought with my own money, built with my own resilience. There, in the quiet, I felt something unfamiliar grow stronger. Clarity. I wasn't grieving just a missed wedding. I was mourning the version of my family I thought I had, the one where love didn't require shrinking myself to be included. By the end of that week, I made a promise to myself. I would never again beg for a seat at a table that felt comfortable leaving me out. And for the first time, that promise felt like power. By the time the phone rang again, I had already learned how to live without expecting anything from them. Weeks had passed since the truth came out, weeks in which no one tried to repair what had been broken. My sister posted wedding photos online, smiling, radiant, surrounded by people who had witnessed her joy. I scrolled past them without reacting, each image a quiet reminder that I was no longer part of the story she chose to tell. I was at the lake house when my aunt called. The windows were open, letting in the soft scent of water and pine. The late afternoon sun shimmered across the surface of the lake, calm and unbothered by human drama. I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt, how rare that peace had been in my life before I stopped explaining myself. "Hi, sweetheart," my aunt said warmly, as if nothing had ever happened. "How have you been?" I almost admired the ease of it. The way people can step over wounds they didn't bleed from. We exchanged small talk. Weather. Work. Nothing that mattered. Then her tone shifted, casual but calculated, like someone easing into a favor they already assumed would be granted. "Your sister was wondering something," she said. "She and her husband are thinking of getting away for a few days. Would you mind if they used your lake house?" The words hung in the air, absurd and heavy all at once. My lake house. The place I retreated to when life felt unbearable. The place my family had enjoyed for years without ever offering to help maintain it. The place they now wanted, after excluding me from the most important day of my sister's life. For a moment, the old version of me stirred. The one who would have said yes to keep the peace. The one who would have convinced herself that generosity might earn her back into the circle. But that woman had learned something painful and permanent. I looked out at the water, watching the sunlight ripple across it, and felt no anger. Just certainty. "No," I said. The word landed softly, but it was solid. There was silence on the line. Then my aunt laughed lightly, as if I had misunderstood. "Oh, come on," she said. "It's just for a couple of days." "I understand," I replied. "And the answer is still no?" She asked why. People always ask why when they're not used to boundaries. I considered giving a long explanation, listing the hurt, the exclusion, the humiliation. But I realized I didn't owe them my pain as justification. "I don't feel comfortable opening my home to people who couldn't find room for me in their lives," I said calmly. Another pause. This one sharp. She told me I was being difficult. She said I was holding a grudge. She hinted that family should forgive and move on. I let her speak until she finished. Then I said, forgiveness doesn't mean access. And that was when I knew I had changed. After the call ended, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't second-guess myself. I felt light, like I had finally put down something heavy I'd been carrying for years. The lake remained still. The air stayed warm. The world didn't collapse because I chose myself. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in weeks, knowing that my revenge wasn't cruelty, it was self-respect. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It came in ripples, missed calls, clipped messages, carefully worded texts that tried to disguise disappointment as concern. No one apologized. No one asked how I felt about being erased from my own sister's wedding. Instead, the narrative shifted quickly, neatly, to me being the problem. I let it. For years, I had exhausted myself correcting misunderstandings that were never misunderstandings at all. This time, I didn't defend my decision. I didn't explain my pain in hopes it would finally be acknowledged. I allowed them to be uncomfortable with my boundaries, because I had learned that comfort had always come at my expense. My sister didn't call me directly. She sent messages through our aunt, as if distance made the rejection easier to swallow. I heard that she was hurt, that she didn't expect this from me. The irony almost made me smile. Expectations, I realized, had always flowed in one direction. I spent more time at the lake house after that. Mornings began with quiet coffee on the deck, the water stretching endlessly in front of me. Evenings ended with sunsets so beautiful they felt personal. In that space, I reflected on all the moments I had ignored, birthdays overshadowed, opinions dismissed, my role reduced to convenience rather than connection. The wedding hadn't created the distance. It had revealed it. One afternoon, as I organized old photos, I found pictures of my sister and me as children, arms linked, laughing, inseparable. I didn't feel anger when I looked at them. I felt gratitude for what we once were, and acceptance for what we no longer could be. I realized then that my revenge was never about punishment. It was about permission to stop shrinking, to stop offering myself where I wasn't valued, to stop mistaking access for love. The family eventually stopped pushing. They found another place to vacation. Another story to tell. And in that quiet withdrawal, I felt something settle into place. Peace doesn't announce itself. It arrives gently, once you finally choose it. I didn't cut anyone off dramatically. I didn't make declarations. I simply changed how close they were allowed to stand. That shift changed everything. Months later, I heard someone mention my sister's wedding again. This time, it didn't sting. The memory had lost its power. What remained was the lesson, that I could survive being left out, and more importantly, I could thrive without forcing myself back in. Standing on the dock one evening, watching the last light fade across the lake, I understood something that felt like closure. They thought excluding me would make me smaller. They were wrong. It taught me how to be whole on my own. And that was the sweetest revenge of all.